I don't know why it stopped. So we're on to the
You know
part two.
curling, that winter sport that seems to slide the rock forward with a slight twist, which causes the rock to
Now look, this rock is currently
curl to the left or right, depending.
going towards which direction? Right now, it is counterclockwise and it is heading to the left.
The rotation direction. The trouble is, the actual mechanism behind the curl is counterintuitive, to say the least. Naively, you might think that if the rock is rotating clockwise while moving forward, the friction on the front edge might push it to the left.
I have no freaking clue why you came to that conclusion. And I'm saying it again, that it's just like bowling in the fact that if you have it curling, it'll go to the left with a counterclockwise, to the right with a clockwise. It's the same thing. It's like the same way that you turn your steering wheel. That is what's happening to the thing. But the reason for it, okay, is that whatever's going on in the frontwards direction, so as it's pushing itself through and churning its way through that front direction, on the back end, as that part of it that's going downwards, back towards where it came from, is experiencing the most friction. The answer is it goes right for clockwise. We would not assume it would go left. There's no way in hell you would assume it goes left. If you go bowling, you know exactly what's going on. And if you do this, throwing it up, right? Going from here to there, you throw it up, and it's rolling that way, right? It goes to the left. This is very well understood that the curl that way makes it go that way. As it moves forward, its forward push is doing most of the pressing, and it's kind of the same reason why a bowling ball would do the same thing. I really can't understand any world where you would assume that it would curl clockwise would lead to a opposite direction of other spinning objects for some reason. Like you think of anything on its tilt and whatever, you can curl a ball really freaking hard if you wanted to.
That's not what happens at all. In fact, if the rock rotates clockwise, it curls to the right, and all of the otherwise simple explanations just don't work.
Clockwise to the right. That is intuitive. That makes the absolute sense because it's literally rolling with a right direction spin. It's like boom, boom, right to the right, uh, right. I mean, the other end doesn't do much for the direction. That end is dragging behind, right? So the best amount of motion that you have is to the right. There's no reason why you would assume anything else unless you consider.
However, there are two mechanisms that are currently in the running for explaining away curling. First is known as scratch guiding. See, the ice only makes contact with the rock on a thin circular protrusion on the bottom of the rock called the running band, which is macroscopically smooth but microscopically rough.
So it represents that there's this area under the rock. It's actually a circle if you looked at it. Instead of it being totally flat and you're using all of the surface, you're only referring to this one band of the surface. So that's fine and all, whatever.
And in 2013, a team suggested that those jagged bumps plow out some of the ice, making tiny tracks that later bumps can follow. According to their explanation, the leading edge bumps on the running band plow out ice as it moves forward, bending with the rotation of the rock. Then the trailing edge bumps also plow out their own tracks, but then they cross over the already existing tracks made by the leading edge, and so the rock gets a slight kick to the side. Now, this is a good
Uh, That you're overcomplicating it, dude. It just is a rolling thing with the roll that is going to go into that direction. As it is moving forward, that is the direction it's going. As it's moving forward, that's the direction it's going. So I can do that. I've been doing that in bowling. I have 20 different types of spins that I can put on the ball to make all sorts of different strikes in bowling from all sorts of different directions, depending on how much curl I do and how much of whatever. And it makes complete sense as to that. I mean, if you ever did Wii bowling, you can just preset that, roll it, and then boom, you got yourself a strike every single time. And it works in real life too. I've recently been going back to bowling with the intention of learning how to do a curl that is either strong or weak so that I can aim it directly at the pins with some extra sideways direction, which will be more likely to make a strike than a head-on collision, which on 5-pin, it's stupid and it just goes straight through and does not any sideways direction whatsoever. In 10-pin, it's a lot easier. 5-pin is actually harder to do. Because in 10-pin, there are enough things to collide with, they will always cascade. In 5-pin, it is much more likely that you will go straight through and miss everything on either side of you.
Explanation because it gets three things right. It gets the direction of the curl right. It predicts.
Also, your ball is the same size as the pin, which is why you're able to slip right through. A 10-pin ball is the big ball, and it hits everything on either side, and is so much easier to get in that one. I do 5-pin, because that's all we have in this bowling alley that we go to.
That the horizontal kick is independent of the rotation rate, which is true, and it correctly predicts that pre-scratched ice can cause the rock to follow a predetermined path. But it has a seemingly fatal flaw. If this explanation were correct as stated, then one should see rocks be thrown askew by the tracks carved out by previously thrown rocks, but that doesn't happen. So
Okay, you're trying to assume that previously thrown rocks actually have a path that you can predict. You realize that people in the front are pushing stuff all around to either they are pushing more stuff in to make more friction, or they're pulling stuff away to make less friction happen, and therefore ignoring everything that the other person has ever done to mess up the ice. So, yeah, previous tracks are completely ignored, if not deliberately ignored.
something is amiss and needs more thought. The second mechanism is known as pivot sliding. This mechanism is also fairly straightforward. You can think of it as a tiny piece of jagged stone getting caught in a place, pivoting around that catch, and then gliding for a bit over and over again. According to
I'm trying to see if this perspective thing is correct, and it almost makes sense. Yeah, this rotating thing is like, yeah, if it's rotating this way, then this one edge that's there doesn't move forward as much as the rest of the part that is moving on the underside of the curl, or whatever you call it. The side that's moving in the same direction as is moving forward. So it actually does one of these things. And that perspective is mostly correct, except for pretty much doesn't need to be that way.
this model, the pivots on average happen on the side with the most friction. If the rock is rotating clockwise and traveling forward, this would be the right side of the rock.
I'm gonna slap him. I'm sorry, you can't misspeak twice. Buddy, clockwise. Which direction is that? Let me just show you. Hold on.
Pivoting around that catch, and then gliding for a bit over and over again. According to this model, the pivots on average happen on the side with the most friction. If the rock is rotating clockwise and traveling forward, this would be the right side of the rock. This seems to explain.
Okay, wait. Yeah, the right side is the part that is going in opposite direction of its travel. Okay? So he did speak correctly. I can make mistakes and correct myself.
You know, curling, that
Shut up.
doesn't happen. So something around that catch, and then gliding for a bit over and over again. According to this model, the pivots on average happen on the side with the most friction. If the rock is rotating clockwise and traveling forward, this would be the right side of the rock. This seems to explain the phenomenon well too, but as of now, there is no experimental evidence that shows the pivots actually take place where they think it does. Now,
I mean, a bowling ball, again, with these same curls, is going to pivot rolling this way, and it's going to go that way. Rolling this way, and it's going to go that way. It's based on the top of the ball where you're going to see it go. That's basically general knowledge that people just understand from either bowling or maybe baseball and other sports, I'm pretty sure. Curling is no different, and I don't see why it would be any different. But when he said intuitively, I have to hear it again.
that winter sport that seems both stressful and silly at the same time, we still don't know how it works. And if that sounds funny to you, you're in for a treat. The name of the sport comes from the fact that players of the sport slide the rock forward with a slight twist, which causes the rock to curl to the left or right, depending on the rotation direction.
Okay, here's the thing. Notice where this person on the... Which side is it? Okay, shut up. The left side... Okay, compared to the thrower who's back here, this is the left guy. He did a bunch of push stuff to make it do what? What does that actually do? Does it scratch it up to make it more frictiony? Or does it smooth it out to make it less frictiony? I don't know. And then that is an entire other piece of the component that you're not even trying to explain in this video. And I'm bothered
mechanism behind the curl
by that because literally they did something on that side so that it would move into that direction, which might have more of a place on what it does more than the curl itself. It's possible that the shaping of the ice in whatever direction allows for a coefficient of friction on one side or the other that then either makes it really straight, like if you are pushing it in one direction or another, or pulling it in the direction you want to go. Think of it that way. You can't go into curling without also explaining what is being done to the ice as it's going down the curl. You're not just throwing this thing with a twist and expecting it to go wherever it's going. You're also doing stuff to the ice to change the landscape as you do the thing. So whatever, you have to use all your bits of information about it to...
is counterintuitive, to say the least. Naively, you might think that if the rock is rotating clockwise while moving forward, the friction on the front edge might push it to the left. But that's not what happens at all. In fact, if the rock rotates clockwise, it curls to the right, and all of the otherwise simple explanations just don't work.
I think that the sample size of videos would lead to a false assumption. If I were to really analyze curling correctly, I would have to have shots of them maybe pushing and scraping the ice on the right side, and therefore it moves towards that scraped side. And then on the left side, and it moves towards that left scraped side, or left roughed up side. Whichever one is actually taking place, I haven't really looked into it, but if they're not thinking about how that works, or you're not really thinking about how that works, and also me having experience with bowling, just am like, yeah, I'm ignoring both of you. It just should be this way, and why don't you already understand it? Bruh. But there is the shaving component, and I'm like, you can't make a video about this stuff without the shaving part. That's the whole point of curling. You do the shaving part.
However, there are two mechanisms that are currently in the running for explaining
So
to curl to the left or right, depending on the rotation direction. The trouble is, the actual mechanism behind the curl is counterintuitive, to say the least. Naively, you might think that if the rock is rotating clockwise while moving forward, the friction on the front edge might push it to the left. But that's not.
clockwise moves left is nowhere in anyone's mind how you expect it to happen. Clockwise moves left. Why would it do that? I can't for the life of me figure out why clockwise moves left is intuitive in his brain. I'm trying to figure it out, and it's like, okay, if it's clockwise, maybe it's pushing, maybe it's clockwise with like, no, I can't imagine what's happening there to make it pull towards the right, the left. What is he saying?
While moving forward, the friction on the front edge might push it to the left, but that's not.
Clockwise to the left. Yeah, no, that seems one. No, that's not the intuitive thing. That's the opposite intuitive thing. Like, for some reason, I don't know, man. I'm not seeing your vision that makes clockwise to the left even remotely possible. Again, go try bowling, go try whatever else. You'll find it would have clockwise moves to the right, not the left. But here's the kicker. Clockwise and counterclockwise also depending on the pivot, meaning is it leaning towards the right or the left? Now, with a curling ball, stone, whatever you call it, that
What
thing,
happens at all. In fact, if the rock rotates clockwise, it curls to the right, and all of the otherwise simple explanations just don't work.
again, no, clockwise to the right is the intuitive answer because I know bowling, because I know, like, you can do the same thing on freaking, pretty much anything, even pool. If you do 8 ball pool, right? Um, snooker or whatever you call it, you're gonna have it so that if the ball is curling in one direction, like if it's curling clockwise, you're gonna see it go to the right. There's no reason to assume that it would clockwise and go to the left. That makes no sense. Like 0 cents would never expect it to happen is not something I'm understanding your perspective whatsoever. So in pool, bowling, baseball, and I can't think of anything else right now. Probably lawn bowling. like if you hit it on the left side of the ball, it's going to have a curl that turns it clockwise, and it's going to move to the right because you hit it with left, the direction, and also push it. Let's not get into lawn bowling and croquet. But generally, again, with the steering wheel function idea, if you turn your steering wheel to the right, your car is moving towards the right. That makes sense. You turn it to the opposite direction, the car moves to the left. The counterclockwise moves to the left. There's 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 almost no world where I ever see clockwise move to the right, except for that doofy car. There was some dude made a bicycle with opposite gears, okay, and that's where you move it to the right. You're gonna actually steer towards the left because it's a backwards steering on purpose, not intuitive system. Okay, it's a literal thing. So there's that. So buddy, go bowling. You gotta figure out some physics. I don't understand. This is the only time I've seen you make a mistake, and it's a blatant one. And I'm like, wait. I mean, I guess everyone in physics can make mistakes sometimes, but I'm just trying to figure out what mechanism makes you think that on the ice it's gonna work differently than in more like five different other examples of righty tighty lefty loosey, something like that. Which is not how it works. It's right, clockwise is right, counterclockwise is left. Like, how do you. Okay, the other idea that he might be more interested in inverted controls when it comes to flying, which means that if you, for some reason, push it towards one side, then your steering will make you turn the other way. And I never use those inverted steering controls. Again, that's not the intuitive controls that I use. I don't know. To each their own, but to say that you expect the ball to be doing that thing, it's like, no, physical laws of motion, this is going to go that way. This, which is counterclockwise, is going to go to the left. I don't need to explain anymore. It's like, what? Yeah, no, this makes some of the sense. The gear tooth idea is not exactly how it's happening, but it's one way of thinking about it. But you could also say, again, that the leading edge, the edge that's going in the same direction as travel, is doing all the pushing, and the back end is going the opposite direction of travel, right? On the back end of that turn, this side is doing the opposite of move forward. So it's the one that if you're going to have anything hit it, it's going to do all the pushing backwards, right? So on this side you have the thing going backwards, on this side you have the thing going forwards, right? If you're rotating counterclockwise, switch it to clockwise. Then you have the leading edge pushing, 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 pushing. Then it's being pushed, being pushed, being pushed. So you're going to just naturally go to the right with clockwise, and to the left with counterclockwise. I don't know why you need the gear tooth idea. That's not exactly how that works, and especially with curling. But whatever. I still don't understand the stuff about curling and the ice. And I'm not going to pretend to understand the curling and the ice. But to say that the intuitive thing is clockwise go left is. I don't know where you got that from. And I'm done. Bye.